Please welcome Beatriz Belmonte, Head of Service Design at IE PublicTech Lab, and Arüne Matelyte, GovTech Lab Manager at GovTechLab Lithuania. Thank you very much. Hello, ladies.
Thank you very much, Alex. Hi, Arüne, and welcome. So Arüne is joining us from Vilnius, Lithuania, and we want to know a little bit more about this, the remarkable success that this GovTech Lab have experienced. We had the opportunity to chat a bit about your GovTech journey a few weeks ago, and you mentioned that it all started barely 2 years ago, and since then you have been able not only to pilot the lab with government, but also to build a momentum in which interest and commitment to the project have surged. I would like you to tell us about the origin of this. How do you start a program like this, and why did you start it in the first place?
Yeah, well, hey, thanks for having me here. And actually, it started quite simply. So me and a few of my colleagues have been working on different digital government projects at the Ministry of Economy and Innovation in Lithuania. And what we noticed while doing other things related to open data and digital economy is that we have teams in Lithuania's public sector that are embracing innovation and experimentation, but still only a few, and they're very scattered around the public sector. So they are in different public sector institutions. So we have those few shining innovation stars, but the question is, how do we translate what they do and scale it to the whole public sector? And so we kind of saw this as a recurring problem, but also, if you will, an opportunity. And at the same time, we saw that many startup ecosystem players were interested in solving social and public sector challenges, but they saw a government as a very clumsy client, not someone that you want to work with, although it has that potential. So we looked around what's happening in Europe and beyond, and GovTechLab came as a natural solution to us. We wanted to create a process of how governments can open up to startups and innovative companies, and how we can encourage them to work together. So we pitched this idea to set up such team to Vice Minister and also Minister of Economy and Innovation in Lithuania, and they gave us a green light to just try and pilot it and see what happens. So that's kind of how we got started.
So you started with a lot of trust from your government. That's very good. Yeah. And now you are launching, I think, the second series of the challenges you work from the public sector to GovTech startups, but you also suggest solutions as well, and you co-create them. And we know it is not always easy to involve institutions in this kind of processes. We know it very well, but you have not only involved these institutions, you are actually piloting the initiative with them. How do you do that? How do you pilot a GovTech Lab?
Yeah, I think kind of few key steps and elements that we learned along the way really stand out. So the first one, that might sound a little bit cliche, but I think that's the most important bit, is that you have to start small. So you cannot just immediately propose that you want to create a new government agency with 20, 30 people. And I don't think anyone would say yes to that without any proof of concept. And even if you're a politician or high-level policy maker, public sector official that can make that decision, why would you create a new government agency without a proof of concept? So that's why I think we should start small with 1 or 2 people that maybe working on different projects at that time, but could give some time to trying and figure out what kind of projects we could do together. And we started the same. We started with like 3 challenges that 2 of them failed, and because we learned from that, why some challenges are interesting to startups and others are not. And if we started immediately with 10 or 15, we would not be able to do that. And the same with people. We worked for the first 6 to 9 months, kind of the GovTech Lab didn't officially exist then. We just kind of were doing it, as one of the activities, and it was only established officially last December. And I think from that, kind of the second point is that there will never be a perfect time for innovation or perfect funding for innovation. So you have to look what kind of matches the best your goals. And even now, most of our team's funding is actually received to organize events. But that's kind of still not what we do. We organize that GovTech Challenge series, which we see as our main activity, but from the funding perspective, it's just like our side job. So I mean, and there's never going to be a perfect funding. So just looking for those opportunities and finding, is it supporting SMEs or emerging market in your country? I think that's kind of essential. I mean, keeping those ambitions and goals in mind, but having those small steps. And if we preach experimentation to public sector institutions, we have to be able to follow the same kind of logic and philosophy ourselves. If someone just top down kind of told us, you have to set up a GovTech agency, I don't know if those institutions would trust us if we wouldn't go to the process of experimentation together with them. So I think that's kind of two key things that help us understand where the institutions are at and why they're worried about certain things, and help us to build that and scale as well.
Absolutely, you need to walk the talk, right?
Yeah.
You were looking at other institutions, looking for inspiration, and now we want to get some inspiration from you. What do you think are the main factors that have played a key role in your success, and what, in your opinion, have you seen as being completely necessary in the build-up to systemic change, as you have done in Lithuania?
I think apart from the other two things that I mentioned before, kind of three elements are very important. So one, finding allies, that communicating the uncertainty that we have every day, and also being a very good translator between the public and the private sector. So first, what I mean by building allies is that you have to allow people to be part of your movement. So when you're creating the lab, do not do that with like closed doors. Involve as many people as possible, even at the very early stage, at the science stage, and if you can, at the decision-making stage, because especially if you have small team, they become the advocates and ambassadors for you, and they can scale the message so much more than you could. And I think secondly, these kind of projects are usually the first ones in the country, so you have to be bold about communicating it and not pretending that you know what you're doing. So use that to your advantage and say that you're experimenting, and together with other institutions, and that kind of allows you the space to make mistakes, but also makes the institutions more comfortable, because then everyone kind of finally understands that it is experimentation. It's not 100%. You're not going to deliver and implement every pilot that you do, because otherwise that would not be about innovation. So I think that's very important. And finally, that it's kind of very like transferable thing to other areas, but just making both public sector institutions and also the startups appreciate each other. So you have to at first be a translator, but then help them be more kind of empathetic to what each other do. And that's kind of why in our accelerator, we make them go to the same like workshops together, so they can see that the public sector can understand that startup might not have money next month. They have to earn their living. That's why they need to work in tighter deadlines. And maybe that's why they're more anxious to get the things doing. And startups have to understand the public sector officials. Sometimes they're responsible for like delivering essential public services. They cannot just suddenly stop doing what they're doing, and they're even legally responsible. And trying to kind of seeing and appreciating the differences, and that's essential. And for GovTech labs in different countries, that's definitely like what they need to master, and have that full picture of what different stakeholders are doing in their country.
Those are great learnings. I'm afraid we're running out of time, but I would like to make the most of these seconds. You have evolved in so many ways, and we would like to know where are you now? Where are you heading next?
So as you mentioned, we are the second iteration of GovTech Challenge series, but what we try and do more effectively is not just help with the process, but try to fund the pilots as well. So we're happy that this summer, actually, Lithuania's government confirmed new kind of economy plan where we'll be able to fund pilot GovTech solutions around government. So we're trying to move into that more strategic direction and have more tools at our disposal. And I think that shows that you can start from organizing a few GovTech events to being that kind of the key enabler in the GovTech ecosystem in the country. But have to have those steps, and cannot start immediately for getting like 7 million to pilot solutions. You have to start from somewhere smaller and to just build it up.
Thank you so much, Arüne, and we are looking forward to knowing more about the development of your project.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you very much, Bea. Thank you very much, Arüne.